My fellow Americans. This is your fellow American with the Help Me Make Sense of This broadcast. My fellow Americans, I'll get right down to it. Good news abounds, my fellow Americans. Just today, a federal judge has ordered the king, self-proclaimed, and his court to reinstate thousands. I did try to get their actual number, but it wasn't available. But they have to reinstate thousands of probationary federal employees that were let go, fired. This is good news, my fellow Americans, because the judge in this particular case really laid the groundwork in their decision to kind of short circuit all of these human right violation dismissals and firings by the office of the court jesters, the court jester, his office, Doge, all the Doge firings of federal employees. Now, my fellow Americans, here on the My Fellow American channel, and in the Help Me Make Sense of This broadcast, we speak in code a lot. We speak in code to not be outright banned on these channels, or to be shadow banned, because there are algorithms working overtime trying to decipher what is being said and censor said voices. So we will refer to the king self-appointed, and we all know who that is, the person who said they were king, and we will refer to his number one stooge, or the court jester, as the court jester, because when one of the first edicts that the court jester put out, he had to recant it. I was just joking. Okay, so since you're just joking, we're going to take everything you do as a joke. But it's not a joke that one of the companies that you own is about to go into insolvency. But that's another story. But my fellow Americans, it's great news that these probationary employees are being reinstated back in the federal service where they belong. And these kind of judgments and injunctions will continue to be used as precedents with any future reductions, unlawful reductions in force. A reduction in force can be done in the federal government. It can happen in the military. I've lived through two, to my recollection, in the military, and one that was threatened as a government civilian. But suffice it to say that there is a legal way to do it, and the way the Doge cronies have been doing things is definitely not legal. And it's on the subject of the legality of all this that I want to address the audience in the second segment of this particular broadcast. Help me make sense of this, my fellow Americans. Your fellow American is a basketball coach. That's one of the hats I wear in support of the men and women of our great nation. As a basketball coach, one of the strategies I love to employ is based on a simple premise. A good defense is an overwhelming and complex offense. I want to tire my opponent's coaching staff out trying to figure out from possession to possession what we're running. It never looks the same. I have a myriad of offensive sets and formations to throw at you. It never looks the same. I run all kinds of stuff, and then I just run nothing at all for large swaths of the game to keep the defenders off balance. And I have learned the more you're responding to my offense, the less energy you're going to have to run your own. So makes winning basketball games, and I have about a 79.5% winning percentage at present. And I would have them in the background, but I don't display the trophies. I just don't. But suffice it to say, in these present times, my fellow Americans, a good strategy would be, just from one fellow American to another, is to employ an overwhelming and complex offense. Well, what do you mean, my fellow American? Well, real quick. One of the court members of the King's Court, let's call them the sheriff, the one in charge of law for the king. That person can be disbarred if that person is doing things or green lighting things that are unconstitutional. And if that person is disbarred, even for a moment, they would automatically be disqualified from holding that position. Now, say if the king puts out an edict, and that edict is compared to the rule of law and the governing laws of the realm. Like I said, here we speak in code. And the sheriff, or the attorney G in this case, of the court, of the King's Court, was to greenlight it, knowing full well that it was against the law, the standing law of the land, the law of the realm. It was unconstitutional. That could be grounds for the sheriff to lose their badge. So I would start, my fellow Americans, start sowing seeds out there with anyone that you know who is in the legal realm in this country, especially at the federal governmental level. And just float the idea that if the sheriff of the King's Court is green lighting his edicts without running them by the law, making sure they're in concordance with the law of the land, maybe that person should lose their badge. Just food for thought. Remember, stay together, work together, be blessed, and believe in your fellow American.